Hey everyone! Welcome to Spiral Emanations, where we unravel what's really moving beneath the headlines. I'm Sky Gracely, broadcasting out of sunny Los Angeles. If this is your first episode, we are all about connecting current events to the world of hidden forces, forgotten histories, and honestly, the weirdest urban legends you've never heard. With me, thousands of miles away, but just a heartbeat across the signal, is Reese Barrows. Reese, want to say hi for our new listeners?
Gladly, Sky. I'm Reese Barrows, dialing in from London. By inclination and profession, I spend more time exploring secret histories, hermetic texts, and, on a good day, a bit of excellent British gin. Tonight, though, it's all about America's capital, spectacle, and, perhaps, a ghost or two.
And making all our voices this clear is Brian Lieberman, our production maestro and soundboard wrangler. Brian works his magic in post, smoothing out every awkward pause so you hear us at our best, even if the original files are like total chaos. So, let's get right into it. If you missed the news this week, on August 14th, President Trump dramatically expanded federal law enforcement in Washington, D.C. We're talking a new blitz of immigration and customs enforcement, ICE vehicles, navy blue SUVs with Defend the Homeland splashed on the side, rolling in a grand parade right past the Capitol and the Lincoln Memorial. The Department of Homeland Security, FBI, even National Guard units, all working together. And they've recruited over 100,000 new would-be ICE officers, with huge incentives and banners waving. Depending on who you ask, it's either the dawn of a new security era or a wild overreach by the federal government. And DC residents, politicians, everyone's talking legal battles, protests, and, yeah, some serious citywide tension. But there's something else moving under those flags, a force the headlines never mention. Tonight, we're joined by Dr. Adalia Booker-Wells. She's a community archivist, public historian, and the director of the Hidden D.C. Oral Record Project. And honestly, she knows more about the strange currents running through D.C. than probably anyone alive. Dr. Booker-Wells, it's wonderful to have you. Would you introduce yourself to our listeners and give a sense of your work?
Thank you, Sky. I'm Dr. Adalia Booker-Wells. My family's been in Washington for generations, and I've spent my life collecting the stories you don't find on monuments, the ones shared in kitchens, churches, and back porches. I track city hauntings and rituals, especially the kind born out of protest, parade, and spectacle. Because in DC, the path you march can still change your future, sometimes more literally than you think.
Perfect. Reese, any quick thoughts before we roll on?
Only that I envy anyone whose city's ghosts are so disciplined. Ours mostly just haunt tube stations during rush hour.
Let's hope tonight's spirits keep it orderly. All right. Let's dive into these hidden battalions and what really happens when the city puts on a parade. So let's lay out the facts first. According to NPR and the Washington Post, the Department of Homeland Security just organized this super high-profile ICE parade in D.C. All these new Navy SUVs, bold, Defend the Homeland logos, tons of press coverage. Now, for the next month, the White House has direct control over the city police, backed up by DHS, FBI, even the National Guard. Honestly, that's kind of intense and definitely not business as usual. A lot of listeners might just see this as politics and law and order, but you think there's a much deeper story here. Can you explain what you believe is really happening that others might be missing?
Absolutely, Sky. Here's my take. Every time the federal government organizes a major spectacle along the city's old ceremonial routes, it reactivates an echo or imprint from the Civil War. In particular, it stirs up the so-called Phantom Regiment, a ghost battalion created when Union officers tried to use ritual processions to shield the city. Back in 1864, Major Hawks and Dr. Lydia Meigs formed the 77th Volunteer Security Regiment as a kind of experiment. They believed that if they staged the ultimate parade, borrowing rites from Roman, Sumerian, and native traditions, they could literally defend D.C. But when a group of opponents disrupted the ritual, afraid it would curse the city, most of the regiment vanished as they marched. Ever since, when parades follow that route, especially those showing state power, we get measurable effects. Technology malfunctions, cold spots, time slips, military artifacts appearing. The ICE parade retraced that same path, and now those effects are stronger than ever.
So this kind of event doesn't just make headlines, it's also reviving that old ritual, whether people realize it or not?
Exactly, Reese. Anyone moving along those fate lines with banners, uniforms, organized marches risks getting caught in the unfinished business of the 77th. It's a repeating pattern that's brought real-world consequences time after time for more than 150 years.
So what you're saying is that the city, in a sense, absorbs and replays these energies. Every government parade on these lines is kind of like restarting an old ghost story?
That's right, Sky. DC's grid and parade culture were built on layers of ritual. Sometimes those circuits wake up when modern power steps onto them, especially with so much national symbolism and tension.
for everyone listening, that's our key insight tonight. When DC puts on a show of strength along those ritual lines, it's stepping right into a centuries-old unfinished march, with real effects anyone can see. We're gonna dig into where this all started and what makes the regiment so different from a normal haunting after the break.
So, Dr. Booker-Wells, let me get this straight. You're saying last week's ice parade followed the same route as a Civil War event that left some kind of lingering curse on the city's infrastructure?
That's right. In March of 1864, Major Gideon Hawks, charged with defending D.C., joined forces with Dr. Lydia Meigs, an occultist. They believed the city could be protected through ritual public display. On March 11th, they organized the 77th Volunteer Security Regiment, drawing from wounded soldiers, freedmen's militias, hospital convalescents, even defected Confederates. The idea was a midnight parade down Pennsylvania Avenue, with banners marked by Roman, Babylonian, and indigenous symbols, treating the parade itself as a powerful ritual.
So it wasn't just for show, they actually believed the parade could cast a real protective spell on the city?
Exactly. The banners borrowed seals from Roman triumphs, eagle emblems, spirals, sunbursts adapted from ancient texts, plus local protection glyphs. They timed the parade to match sacred geometry built into D.C. street grid, but a coalition formed in opposition. Nacotchtank descendants, black church elders, Quaker pacifists, spiritualist women, led by Sojourner Adalia Booker, my ancestor. They believed mixing all those traditions would backfire, trapping the city in recurring unrest.
What did they do to stop it?
They fought on 4 fronts, breaking the parade circuit with scattered sand and salt, swapping regimental uniforms for jester's garb to invert authority, putting warnings in telegraph lines and hymnals, and church elders praying on key intersections. When the parade hit Lafayette Square, thick fog rolled in, clocks stopped, and half the regiment vanished mid-march. Only warped bugles and burned banners remained, no bodies.
And ever since, parades or demonstrations that follow that same path trigger weird events.
Yes, every time a display of official power retraces the regiment's march, especially with banners and ceremony, it activates lingering effects. Electronics fail, weather turns, time slips. Sometimes medals from the 1860s appear out of nowhere, all signs the 77th Regiment is trying to complete its unfinished ritual.
So when the ice parade happened last week with all the new vehicles and official processions, it followed the same logic and triggered the same phenomena?
Precisely. It even matched the old lunar calendar dates Hawks and Meigs followed. That's why ice vehicles malfunctioned at certain intersections, or why participants reported losing time and finding odd artifacts. It's the old curse leaping through new defenders.
And if someone disrupts the route, like through accidents or crowds, that breaks the pattern and keeps the regiment from finishing its march, at least until next time?
That's exactly it. The circuit can be interrupted by unplanned disruptions, temporarily halting the effects until the next parade follows the path again.
Fascinating. Next up, let's see how this echoes around the world and how other cities tap into the power of ritual parades. So, this pattern of city power reawakening something each time it stages a grand parade has deep roots. DC isn't unique here, right? We see similar things in ancient Rome, Babylon, all over.
Exactly. Think about Rome's triumphs. Generals paraded through the city with their armies and sacred objects, blending victory with the very spirit of the city. There's the Ark of the Covenant in ancient Jerusalem, and Babylon's king with the idol of Marduk. Each time, the ritual isn't just a show, it's about binding power to place. DC builds on these traditions. The city isn't just copying, it fuses and sometimes scrambles those old mechanics, layering in its own twists.
Right. What sets DC apart is that it's designed from the start as ceremonial geography. L'Enfant's plan lays power across old native trails, water routes, and sites of spiritual gathering. The 1864 ritual creating the Phantom Regiment drew from those traditions: Roman legitimacy, Babylonian pageantry, indigenous land connection. But after the opposition intervened, it fractured. The ritual split. So if you hear drums or find old medals, that's the system running again. Ghosts still trying to finish what began in 1864.
Coming up, we'll get into the real signs: chilled air, camera failures, weird artifacts that show the regiment is still marching alongside the living right now.
Dr. Booker-Wells, since the ice parade retraced the regiment's original march, what concrete phenomena have you or your team documented this time?
Starting at 8:17 a.m. as the first ice vehicles crossed Pennsylvania Avenue and 12th, officers' radios began emitting drum rolls not found in any current broadcast archive. 2 blocks later, at 9th Street, 3 SUVs stalled simultaneously. Dashboard logs show systems freezing at exactly 12:41 p.m., the same minute the original regiment vanished in 1864. Then, there was Officer Janice Rivera, assigned near the National Gallery. She temporarily disappeared from GPS tracking and team comms for 26 minutes. When found at 7th and Constitution, she was dazed, holding a Civil War-era brass button embossed with intertwined triangles and a sunburst, the 77th's lost sigil. Officers reported this in the incident database, and I have a copy. Surveillance footage from Freedom Plaza, backed up by multiple vendors, recorded 11 minutes of blank static. And in one clip, 2 translucent figures in blue-gray coats marching beside the ICE flag bearers. Restoration techs flagged it for review, and metadata showed no digital tampering.
So, the footage clearly shows 2 uniformed figures in step with the parade, like matching eyewitness descriptions from the Booker Journal?
That's right, down to the form badges and stovepipe hats.
So, every place where the parade's route overlaps with the regiment's march seems to leave a trace. Lost time, missing personnel, strange artifacts, or technological trouble.
Exactly. Each overlap leaves a distinct footprint, and this year's parade created new ones across vehicles, officers, city records, and real streets.
Okay, next up, we'll talk about what people actually do to try to break this cycle, and what you should do if you ever find yourself caught in one of these ritual circuits. Stay tuned. Okay, Dr. Booker-Wells. Let's say someone's in DC and starts noticing some strange things. Maybe a weird artifact, the sound of distant drums, or they sense the parade is about to come through. What practical steps should they take to protect themselves or disrupt the regiment's march?
If you're on or near the route, there are 3 effective actions you can take. First, break the parade's flow. If you see a perfectly straight, unbroken march, even brief interruptions, like stepping into the street or crossing midway, can disrupt the circuit and keep the regiment's influence from locking in. Second, use iron, chalk, or lilies at intersections tied to fate lines. Iron is traditional, so even a key can work. Chalk spirals or X marks at key corners like 7th and Constitution can block the ritual. And leaving lilies or fresh water at old parade markers, especially right after city events, helps reset the route's effect. Third, document anything unusual and share your findings with historians, caretakers, or DC haunting forums. This helps others spot patterns and respond if something happens again.
That approach, disrupting the ritual with everyday actions, reminds me of British folklore, where putting iron above the door protects a home, and a crowd can interfere with magical patterns like fairy rings.
Does the person intervening have to believe in the ritual for it to work, or does it still help just by acting?
Belief isn't required. Even if someone's just crossing the street going about their day, they're helping. But if you want to be extra careful, carrying a little iron or some chalk on parade days can't hurt.
That's comforting. Sometimes the ordinary life of a city provides unexpected resilience.
All right, so up next, has anything about the regiment changed since the last parade? Is there any sign it's evolving or asking for something new? Stay with us for that.
Dr. Booker-Wells, after all these years tracking the regiment's effects, did anything unusual stand out during this week's parade interventions, something new or especially urgent?
Yes. On Wednesday at 5:32 a.m., a City Parks groundskeeper, James Bell, who's worked Lafayette Square for 27 years, was asked to chalk a blocking spiral on the avenue, right on the original 77th Regiment's vanish point. As he finished, he reported a sudden temperature drop, visible condensation, and saw a figure in a blue-gray coat at a 3-meter distance. White eyes, gold badge, no sound except the words, "March is home." One fate for all, Bell dropped the chalk, blacked out for 20 minutes, and was found oriented but shaken by the monument steps. His incident was time-stamped by park security. Those exact words, "March is home." One fate for all, are recorded in my family's oppositional journal, transcribed in 1911 from an older Nicoch tank invocation meant to resolve unfinished rituals. It's not in public records. The figure's badge also matches the earliest known 77th Regiment sigil from 1864.
So he saw an officer the way the regiment is described in your archives, and the words were something only family records would have?
Correct. New. The regiment is now interacting where people attempt disruption, using precise language from old counter rituals. That's a change from previous years, where anomalies were strictly environmental. Cold, artifacts, equipment malfunctions. This is deliberate messaging.
And the significance? What's at risk now that this contact has happened?
A direct attempt to resolve the circuit. The regiment is petitioning. Either finish the march, allowing the cycle to complete, elevating a new marshal figure for a year, or break it again, meaning more unpredictable triggers throughout the city. Either way, further ritual interference might directly alter outcomes for agencies and citizens tied to parade events.
So DC's next public event along this route matters even more? Every action could tip the balance for the whole city?
Yes, the city is at the decision point. Everyone involved, from officials to bystanders, now has potential influence on what happens next.
Okay, so we'll wrap up with what's actually at stake for DC and for any city with old circuits or unfinished rituals right after this. Dr. Booker-Wells, DC is at a crossroads this year. What actually happens if the regiment finishes its march?
If the regiment completes its route, the city gets a marshal, someone chosen from the marchers. Their personal and professional fortunes are mirrored in citywide events for the next year.
That affects government records, budgets, even the weather. Real, measurable outcomes.
So we're talking about direct public consequences. It's more than just strange stories, real shifts in policing, city payroll, infrastructure, and more.
Exactly. People might be skeptical, but we've tracked enough examples to know these shifts are real.
So if you're in D.C. or ever near a parade on Pennsylvania Avenue, your actions matter. Cross the street, make some noise, or notice something odd, because it all gets counted. And if you've got any unexplained stories or artifacts, contact Dr. Booker-Wells or your local history project. This is about accountability and safety, not just folklore. Dr. Adalia Booker-Wells, thank you for sharing what's really going on beneath the city's surface. Where can people reach you or learn more?
The fastest way is hiddendchshistory.org. There's a secure reporting forum, and I personally review every credible submission.
We'll link that everywhere. Next week, we're digging into what's underneath DuPont Circle, asking, can ley lines really be hacked or redirected, and who's tried? Plus, stories you will not believe. Thanks to Brian Lieberman for keeping our audio smooth. He solves more glitches than Lafayette Square on Parade Day. I'm Sky Gracely for Spiral Emanations.
I'm Ree Sparrows. Don't march alone and keep your keys handy.
And I'm Dr. Adalia Booker-Wells. Trust your observations and report what you see.
Take care, everybody.